Let's get into a story that, I promise you, sounds like it was pulled straight from the script of some epic fantasy movie. We're talking about a massive wall, a hidden army of literally billions, and a prophecy that says one day that wall is coming down. But here's the thing, this isn't fiction. For a huge part of the world, this is a very real, very core prophecy. So get this, the story says there is an army behind a wall right now. As in this very moment, a real army, and there are billions of them and they are digging every single day. They're getting closer. So this isn't some dusty old legend, it's talked about as something that's happening as we speak.
All right, so who in the world is this army? Well, the figures at the very center of all this are known as Yajuj and Majuj. Now, what might actually surprise you here is that Yajuj and Majuj, you might also know them as Gog and Magog, they aren't aliens, they're not some mythical beasts. The tradition is very clear. They're a huge tribe of human beings. They're descendants of the prophet Noah, just like the rest of us. But what sets them apart is their incredibly violent and destructive nature. So, to figure out where this wall came from, we've got to rewind thousands of years, back to a righteous king who built it. This is the story of a man named Dhul-Qarnayn and his incredible barrier, which is actually described as a wall of mercy.
So Dhul-Qarnayn was this just ruler traveling the world. And he comes across this community that is living in absolute terror. They called Yajuj and Majuj the corruptors of the land, saying they would just raid, kill, and destroy absolutely everything in their path. And they begged him, please, protect us. And the solution he came up with was just genius. This was no ordinary wall. He had his people stack enormous blocks of iron to fill the gap between two mountains. Then they used giant bellows to heat that iron until it was glowing red hot. And for the final step, they poured molten copper all over it, sealing every last crack. The result was this incredibly dense structure, with a surface so smooth you couldn't climb it, and so strong you couldn't possibly break through it. But Dhul-Qarnayn knew, even then, this wasn't a permanent fix. He apparently said, "This is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes, he will level it to the ground." So you see, the wall was never meant to be a permanent prison. It was a temporary shield, and its expiration date was already set on a divine timeline.
And that brings us to the really fascinating part of the story. What's supposedly happening today? There's this incredible, suspenseful cycle playing out, and it all hinges on a single, forgotten word.
So picture this. Every single day, Yajuj and Majuj are digging at this wall. They dig and dig until they've almost broken through, until they can just about see the sunlight on the other side. And every day, their leader says, "All right, that's enough. Go back. We'll finish it tomorrow." But because of one tiny little omission, when they come back the next morning, the wall is brand new again, fully restored, like they hadn't done a thing.
So what is it? What are they forgetting? The one phrase they fail to say every single day is Insha'Allah, which simply means God willing. And it's that failure to acknowledge a power higher than themselves that apparently traps them in this endless loop of getting nowhere. But the prophecy says that one day, one fateful day, their leader will finally remember. He will say, "Tomorrow, inshallah, we will break through." And on that day, for the first time in thousands of years, when they return, the wall will be just as they left it, and they will be free.
And when that barrier finally falls, it's not described as an invasion or a battle. No, the scriptures describe it as a force of nature, a human tidal wave.
The description in the Qur'an is so vivid. It says, "They will swoop down from every mound." Think about that word. It doesn't say march or charge or attack. It says swoop. It gives you this image of overwhelming speed and numbers, just pouring over the landscape like a terrifying, unstoppable flood. To give you some kind of idea of their sheer scale, the prophecy says they will drink the entire Sea of Galilee completely dry. The first waves of their army will drink from it, and by the time the very last of them finally arrive at that spot, they'll just look down at the dry, cracked earth and say, "There was once water here." And their arrogance is just off the charts. They're not satisfied with conquering the entire planet. They will literally shoot arrows into the sky, declaring that they're now going to defeat the inhabitants of heaven. And as a test, God will return their arrows to them stained with blood, and they'll cheer, completely convinced that they've won. So all of this sets up what has to be the most incredible plot twist in the entire story. How do you possibly defeat an army that literally no one on Earth can fight? Well, the answer comes from the absolute most unexpected place you could ever imagine. I mean, that's the ultimate question, right? At this point in the story, the prophet Isa, that's Jesus, peace be upon him, has returned. But even he and his followers are powerless against them. No army, no technology, no weapon has any effect. So, how can they possibly be defeated?
Well, they're trapped on a mountain, they're surrounded, they're starving. And so Prophet Isa and the believers turn to the only weapon they have left. The only thing that could possibly work against a force like this. Dua. Sincere, desperate prayer.
And God answers their prayer. But not with lightning, not with an earthquake, not with an army of angels. He answers with tiny worms. You know, the kind you might find in the nose of a camel. These tiny, insignificant creatures are sent, and they attack the necks of Yajuj and Majuj.
And in a single night, the entire army, all billions of them, are wiped out. And in the aftermath, the world isn't just cleaned up, it's completely reborn.
I mean, the contrast is just unbelievable. The world goes from being literally covered in their dead bodies with this unbearable stench to being cleansed by giant birds and a special rain that washes the entire earth until it shines like a mirror. It is a complete and total reset.
And after that reset, a time of unimaginable blessing begins. They say a single pomegranate will be big enough to feed an entire group of people. The milk from one camel will be enough for a whole community. Lions and camels will graze peacefully side by side. And all malice, all hatred will be just removed from people's hearts. An era of absolute peace.
And that really brings us to the core lesson of this entire epic story. You have the greatest, most terrifying army in the history of humankind, a force that no one could stop, and they are completely wiped out by one of the smallest, humblest of God's creations. It's the ultimate lesson in divine power versus human arrogance. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In the end, the story's ultimate weapon wasn't a sword or a bomb or anything humans could create. It was prayer. So it makes you wonder, right? What does that say about the kind of power you actually hold? Especially in those moments when you feel the most powerless.